You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to a special Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you today by Betfair Exchange. Betfair Exchange is Australia's betting exchange. You can go punter versus punter with no built-in betting margins. Betfair Exchange gives you better value when you bet. So that's betfair.com.au. And what we're doing here is in the aftermath of the NBA trade deadline, having a look at how the odds have shifted for the 2020 NBA title and seeing where the value lies, what moves have been made, and how all the contenders stack up. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. So, with how things have gone recently, there's been some huge moves. And the biggest move we've seen here in the market has been the Miami Heat. They've gone from $70 for the NBA title all the way into $28. Now, that is a huge move on the back of them acquiring Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder. Solomon Hill, not really a big deal. They lost James Johnson. They lost Justice Winslow, who's injured anyway. And they lost Dion Waiters. Waiters wasn't playing. Winslow's been out pretty much all season. But I think, when he was healthy, he was a decent piece that you could say was maybe a little bit less than what Iguodala would give you. Of course, Iguodala's 36 years old and hasn't played all season. And Winslow wasn't healthy anyway, so it's a bit of a wash there. But adding Crowder for Johnson, who barely played, and taking some of the pressure off guys who maybe aren't as tested, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Derek Jones, those sort of guys. Kelly Olynyk even's going to lose some playing time probably here as well. I think that is it's quite a reactionary move based on Iguodala. They go, well, Andre Iguodala won 3 titles with the Warriors, therefore the Heat are becoming unbelievable now. And Iguodala was good for those Warriors teams. He was really important. He probably should have won a 6th Man of the Year while he was there. Is he that good to bring a team in from $70 into $28? Because let's be honest, Jay Crowder was not good this season. He has not been good for 4 or 5 years. He was terrible in Cleveland. He was below average in Utah. He was below average in Memphis. He was good in Boston about 4 years ago. He just isn't that good anymore. So he isn't really a massive needle mover. This feels really reactionary to me to move the Heat into $28. And yes, they feel like they're one of the best 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks, the Celtics, the Raptors, the Heat, and then the Sixers who are struggling at the moment. But Miami has pushed in so far there. Is that good value at $28? I don't think they've really got any hope of winning the NBA title, to be honest. I think we're probably looking at 4 to 5 teams who have got that chance, and I don't think the Heat are one of them. So while that is a big move in from them on the back of that Iguodala trade, I think it's a bit of an overreaction as to what he can bring at this age and where he fits on this team. They just their best players are Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who are good. They are not championship level carriers. They've got 3 basic rookies there: Nunn, Hero, and Robinson, who's basically a rookie. A guy in Derek Jones who barely plays. Crowder, who's again below average. It just isn't a team that looks to me to be a title contender. But that is a huge move, and it is the biggest move of the day in terms of the betting markets for the NBA title. The biggest drifter out of the top 10 teams, the Houston Rockets, went from $18 down to $22. Now, obviously, they improved their wing defense by adding Robert Covington over Clint Capella, but people hated that move. Apparently, in the betting markets, is that they dropped down all the way to $22, which places them as 5th favorite overall for the title. They are 9-1 this season without Clint Capella, with that small ball lineup, and that's having Ben McLemore and Daniel House fill in for the Robert Covington role. So, theoretically, they will be better with Covington taking those House/McLemore minutes. But I think people worry about what happens when they go up against Anthony Davis. What happens when they go up against Rudy Gobert? Although they beat the Jazz with Tucker at center. What happens when they go up against Big Chungus Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, who is absolutely just destroying people at the moment? People have that real worry. Oh, what do you need a big man? And I feel like some of that's rooted in past thoughts. It's almost in the dump it down, give the big man in the paint and let him go to work. I think there's a lot of it is built into that thought process. So I think Houston easing out to 22 gives a little bit of value. Now, I'm not thinking that they're the favorites to win this title. By no means are they that. But in terms of easing them out, I think that gives a little bit of value. And Houston at 22 is much better value to me than Miami at 28. And they're the two big movers here on either side of the spectrum. And I think Covington can be really useful. It gives them just another shooter, another perimeter defender to throw at Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James. These are your difference makers, Giannis Antetokounmpo. These are your difference makers, not necessarily someone like Anthony Davis or Rudy Gobert. Maybe Jokic is a little bit different, but the difference makers are those guys on the wing. And Houston, when it gets down to it in the playoffs, that's the direction they want to go. They know that Clint Capella has been played off the floor in the playoffs before, admittedly, by the Golden State Warriors, and the Golden State Warriors don't exist in that form anymore. So things are a little bit different there. But I do think that easing that odds out to 22 gives a little bit of value there for the Rockets. The Sixers were all over the place. They went from $15 out to $19, I guess, with the thought about the locker room turmoil, and then they came back to 15 after the news of Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III being acquired. Philadelphia is obviously in trouble. They can't win on the road at the moment. I still think that they have a better chance, and the odds reflect that, than the Miami Heat of winning the title and of the Boston Celtics of winning a title, because if things do click, that team, that defense is unbelievable. Now, we're a long way away from that happening, but adding two guys like Robinson and Burks on the bench to improve shooting, mix them in with, say, Korkmaz and Thibault as a defender, you can switch things up and alternate guys around. That was always the biggest problem the Sixers had, was getting shooters in. Very similar to a couple of years ago when they brought on Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli to really help them for shooting down the stretch. That's exactly the Robinson-Burks sort of role we're going to have for this team. So them sort of not moving, I think gives them a little bit of value. And outside of the top three favorites, Philadelphia is fourth favorite, but I think there is more value in them at $15. I think they probably should be a $10 or $11 bet. So I reckon that they and the Rockets both easing out gives them, they've got that ability, that sort of it factor, or the X factor maybe is the right term for it, that things can go their way and they can push both of those teams easily into the conference finals. And then when they get there, who knows how that all works out. So I think the fact that Philadelphia, while improving those guys, and that you need shooting and you need defense, they've got the defense and they've added some shooting. That's a positive, and the odds didn't really change for them. I think that's a positive for them in terms of getting some value there off them as we move forward. The two big names, of course, we're looking at the two Los Angeles teams. The Lakers didn't make a move today at the trade deadline. The Clippers did. They sent out Mo Harkless and they bring back Marcus Morris. Now, the Marcus Morris numbers that we've been getting while he's been a member of the New York Knicks, that's not what we're going to get with him with the Clippers. He's not going to have 22, 24% usage, whatever it is. He's not going to play 36 minutes or 35 minutes. He's not going to be just dominating in ISO. He's going to be playing a more complementary role, similar to what we saw him do with the Celtics, where he played like 28 minutes a night and had 13, 14 points. He's more likely in that range, but he is a 44% three-point shooter this season. He's more active offensively than what Mo Harkless is. He's going to play more minutes than Harkless, and overall, it is an upgrade. Now, I'm not the biggest Marcus Morris fan as a player. I think he gets significantly overvalued, but he is a significant upgrade to me on what Harkless can do. So the Clippers came in from $4.80 into equal favorites at $4, and I think that's right. I think they should be probably even a shorter favorite, a $3.50 maybe, $3. So I think there is still some value there on the Clippers, and yeah, I think that addition there does help them pretty significantly to just give them that extra body. I still worry about what they're doing at the center position and how they're going to use Harrell, although I think that this move for Morris might actually mean they play Ivica Zubats more, which overall I think helps the team. Rather than a high usage, poor defense center, you've got the other usage forward in there in Morris now, who can take some of those shots that Harrell was getting, and then you get more Zubats in there to be a rim protector, to be a defensive type guy, to be someone who really gets after it on the offensive glass. And I think that's going to help this team overall. Just again, Morris coming in as an upgrade on Harkless, but it also means that, I don't know if Doc will do this, I think he should, is switch those minutes rotations a little bit with the centers, a couple of extra for Zubats, a couple fewer minutes there for Montrezl Harrell. It also means we probably get less Patrick Patterson, which I think is a good thing, although he's been shooting really well. He does have significant deficiencies. Maybe we get fewer JaMychal Green minutes as well. But while that did come in from $4.80 to $4, I'm not sure it came in enough, and I do like the Clippers odds there. And I think they should be outright title favorites at this point, and you can get them at the equal price of $4 at the current time, equal to where the Lakers are. The Lakers are the $4 equal favorites. As I mentioned, they didn't do anything at the trade deadline. I think they're absolutely screwed if one of their guys goes down, as most of these teams are, like one of their guys meaning LeBron James or Anthony Davis, as most of these teams will be. If Paul George goes down, if Kawhi Leonard goes down, if Antetokounmpo goes down, even if Middleton goes down for the Bucks, that they're in trouble. But the Lakers just have such a reliance on those two guys. Kuzma's not ready to step up into a big role. He's not good enough to do it. Rajon Rondo's not good enough to do it, nor is Avery Bradley or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Danny Green just does what he does. The Lakers are pretty good. They're really good, in fact, and the second best team currently in the NBA. I'm just not sure that they're good enough when they have to match up against the Clippers, and they're 2-0 down against the Clippers, 0-2 this season against the Clippers, and the Clippers haven't been running on full steam yet, and now they've improved. I think the Lakers should ease out, and I don't really like them at $4 at the moment for the NBA title. I think that other teams and their cross-hallway rivals got better. They didn't get better. They didn't get worse, but they didn't get better, and a lot of times at the top, if you're not getting better, you are going backwards. If you want to talk about a team that didn't get better, I'm not sure they went backwards, though, and that is the NBA's best team, the Milwaukee Bucks, who are only $4.30 to win the title. That's crazy to me. They are putting up historic numbers. They have won more games this season by 20-plus points than they have total losses. They are on track for maybe 70 wins. They've got the MVP playing 30 minutes a night. Chris Middleton, an all-star, playing 30 minutes a night. They don't have to extend anyone. Whereas you look at the Lakers, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are playing 35, 36 minutes a night. They need to play so much. The Bucks are crushing everyone. And you can tell me about the Eastern Conference being weak. It's not that weak. In fact, I could think the first time in a long time we could say the Eastern Conference is almost, and probably is, equivalent to the Western Conference. And the Bucks just beat everybody. They're just dominating everybody at the moment. So I think there's real value in them at $4.30. I would have the Clippers as the favorites. Just say that I would look at them as like a $3 favorite. I'd look at the Bucks as a $3.50, and the Lakers out to maybe $5.50 would be my guess, maybe $6. So that's where I see those value. The Sixers into 11, the Rockets into about 18. I think would be my guess at looking at those top 5 teams. So they're the big movers that we did have after this NBA trade deadline. If we look at the rest of the contenders, the Utah Jazz is at $25. They are really struggling, and coincidentally or not, it's been since Mike Conley returned. They've got a lot of stuff to figure out. I don't like them as a title threat. The Celtics at 26. Not sure they're quite there. Again, Miami's in at 28. The Celtics are at 26. I can see the Celtics being a significantly better team than the Heat, but I think they're just a bit too inconsistent. Dallas also is at $26 for the title. Not quite their year, I don't think. They didn't make a move either. Miami at 28, but the interesting one that really stands out here is the Denver Nuggets at 28. They are absolutely beat up at the moment. They did make changes, and I'm not sure they got better with these deals that they made, but they are banged up. There's no Mason Plumlee. There's no Paul Millsap. There's no Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray's ankle is still screwed up. Gary Harris is still returning from his injury, and he's not quite right. What they did do is they got rid of Malik Beasley. He wasn't an every-night rotation player. They got rid of Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who wasn't an every-night rotation player. They brought in Noah Vonleh in exchange for Jared Vanderbilt. And then they got Shabazz Napier and then shipped him off for Jordan McRae, who we know Jordan McRae's had a really good season as a bench scoring guard, a microwave scoring igniter type for the Wizards, and I think he can fit in and be that guy. Now, he's not a good defender, and by good I mean he's a horrible defender, but just giving that little bit of extra shooting, a little bit of extra offensive burst when you're playing alongside Nikola Jokic, well, things open up pretty quickly, and if Harris's shot isn't falling, Jordy can step in and he can bang in 18, 20 quick points in 20 minutes. I actually like that move for them. Much more than having Hernan-Gomez there, much more than having Shabazz Napier there. I think having someone along the lines of Jordy McRae to be that igniting offensive type of player is a really interesting one for the Nuggets. And I'd have them higher than the Mavericks, higher than the Jazz in terms of odds, probably at like $22, $21, around that mark. Yeah, I'd have them installed as 6th favorite to me at this point, ahead of the Celtics, the Mavs, the Heat. And then your defending champions, Toronto Raptors, didn't make a move. They're at $32. We love what they've done this season. They're on a record-setting win streak, I think 11 games at the moment. I'm not sure they have the juice to push into the NBA championship, but I also said the same thing last year, that they don't have Kawhi Leonard this year, which is a big difference, and I'm not sure they get there. But I would have them probably ahead of the Miami Heat at this point, and in a similar level to the Celtics in terms of their title odds, with guys like Lowry and Siakam and Gasol and Ibaka and Van Vliet stepping up and just seemingly bringing guys on, and also one of the best coaches in the NBA in Nick Nurse. So that's how things have changed for those odds with the trade deadline. I like the Clippers at 1. I like the Bucks, right behind them as the number 2 team, even though they're crushing everyone. And honestly, maybe I'm being a bit unfair. They probably should be number 1. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit excited by looking at the Clippers as shoring up a little bit of depth and changing their rotation around while the Bucks stayed stagnant. And as I said earlier, if you don't make a move, maybe you are taking a step backwards. But when you're a 70-win team, taking a step backwards is not that big of a deal. And even then, they've been dominated. But you know what I'm trying to get at. All right, that's how I see everything with the trade deadline happening here. You can get all of these odds over on the Betfair exchange. Go to betfair.com.au. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_Beeble and subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell to get notified whenever a new video comes out. I'm going to have another video later on today, really digging into the trade deadline from a fantasy perspective. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.